Alrighty, well, hello, Next Geners. Welcome to Mentor Moments with Next Gen HQ. My name is Jenna, and I have a wonderful mentor to share with you today, Mr. Tom Barrella. So let's dive right in. We're thrilled to welcome him to the Mentor Moments stage. Tom is the founder of investing.Com, which helps individuals build financial literacy and understand money, finance, and investing. Tom is also the author of FinancialLit and a business educator. What doesn't he do? Tom, welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Jenna, thank you so much.
Alrighty, well, I'm excited to dive in with you. I want to get started with a Next Gen HQ tradition, some rapid fire questions. So I'm going to ask you 3 questions and just say the first thing that pops into your mind. Are you ready?
Sure.
Okay, awesome. What is a book that you recommend to others?
I would say the Money Master the Game by Tony Robbins.
Okay, very cool. And what's a healthy habit that you practice?
Staying in shape.
Okay, good one, good one. Healthy body, healthy mind.
Like absolutely.
And then do you have a favorite entrepreneur and why are they your favorite?
I would say my favorite entrepreneur is probably Elon Musk because you just have to be fearless, and he's fearless.
100%. Well, word on the street is that you were actually one of our co-founders, Justin's professors back in the day. Is that true?
It is. It absolutely is.
Yeah. Well, Justin sends his love, but I know the Next Gen community would love to know, and I know I'm curious, what was a young Justin Mapazan like?
Do you know what? Justin was a sharp young man, and because I can tell you, I've taught thousands of kids. I know the room and the seat he was in when I taught him in the investment class back probably his sophomore year. So, yeah.
Well, nothing has changed. Still very sharp and leading the charge for Next Gen HQ. I love it. Well, now that we got all the fun stuff out of the way, rapid fires, getting some dirt on Justin, I would love to dive into more of your professional journey. It seems like it's been quite the ride from self-funded software to educator to author, some things in between. Would you give our audience just a bit of an overview of those different facets of your journey and what those experiences were like?
Sure. You know, Jenna, I'm probably 180 degrees different than most of the mentors in the organization, but I think that maybe that might add a dimension for anybody who this speaks to. When I was a younger person, I had some personal issues, and I poured myself. I was unhappy for a lot of reasons. I poured myself into my work, and I had the opportunity to co-found a software business with some other students actually at Syosset. I'm also basically a graduate of Syosset High School out in Long Island. And we basically took this thing and worked like dogs. We moved the company down to Atlanta, Georgia. I had again, the issues continued because all I did was I poured myself into my work. I was working 80 hours a week with my partners, and some things went down, and I basically pulled the plug on the thing. Now the company, I pulled the plug on my involvement. And what happened was the company went on to go public. Within I think another 10 to 15 years, it got bought out by NCR for over $1 billion. And so I think my issue is it's the journey. It's just one of these things where the balance is so key. And I see so many incredible people on the platform, Next Gen. I mean, you're all about the energy, and it's awesome and it's incredible. And especially at a time like this, I mean, for you guys to keep your enthusiasm and keep the vision and all that is just fantastic. And though to the extent that anybody is having any kind of things kind of creeping in from the periphery and want to talk about it, believe me, I have traveled this thing. I mean, as I said, last I checked, my emotional dysfunction, I was telling my students the other day, I would say at least cost me 100 million, if not, 100 to 200 million based on the value of the company and based on the amount of, the percentage of shares that I own. So it's no fun not following the path, but there may be somebody out there who feels like this is what I've got to do, you know what I mean? Because I'm smart and I'm dynamic and my family does this, my peers are doing this, and I got this amazing invite. And for some people, and it would be amazing to be totally congruent personally and have everything aligned, because I can tell you, it's a lot more, it takes a much greater toll when you're hiding things personally. and you're not really functioning on all cylinders.
Definitely. Work-life harmony, as we like to say here, is very important in order to be happy in both your work and your outside of work life. Those here, and I know for a lot of our viewers, tend to combine a little bit. Do you have any advice for entrepreneurs that are struggling to find that line and it's impacting their mental health?
It's a really good question. I think that people should, I think that you have to ultimately get away and at least have some kind of stillness, wherever that would be. I mean, it could be going away for the weekend. It could be, and just leaving your phone at home and just taking a walk along the creek or river or something, and just try to check in with yourself. Because one of the things I think that I never did, which would have been beneficial, would be to just be honest with yourself. Like I remember growing up, I had all these issues, and it was one of the family of origin things. It was just what went on in the household and the things that happened in my youth. And my parents would say, "Would you like to see a therapist? Would you like to do this?" Like, no, no, everything's fine, everything's fine, everything's fine. And I wanted no part of it. And things weren't fine. So I would absolutely. I mean, we are with our devices. I mean, I'm writing back to students at 11 o'clock at night who are writing me. I advise 2 clubs. I mean, it never ends as far as our work, especially if we take it seriously and we want to always put our best foot forward. But yeah, at some point you've got to get to a place of quiet and check in with yourself and have the courage to be honest. There are great people out there, and there's some people that have said some amazing things. I remember there was a pitcher on the Yankees who I need to remember his name, and he basically said at the end of one of the seasons, like, I'm an alcoholic. And he was just like, I need to step away from baseball. I don't know if it was the end of the season exactly, maybe close to the playoffs or something. And it was just like, holy mackerel. But that took a lot of courage. He'd been hiding it for forever, but he finally stepped up and said, no, you know what, I need to do this right now. And the sky didn't fall. And so anyway, I in fact, in the book that I wrote, that I know we're going to talk about, the first chapter just talks about different ways in life that you can be wealthy and fortunate. And it is highly personal because I feel, and I'm honest with my students too, because I want to show them that I'm a human being. I'm not a robot. I have my flaws. I have my issues. I won't be perfect. Bring my mistakes to my attention, and I'll correct them. And so I just, I want to bring the humanity forth, in what I do.
Definitely. I think you hit on a really important point that authenticity is very hard, but it's a very healthy thing to be able to express to yourself and others. And it's hard, but it's great when you can kind of get there. Well, I'd love to dive a little bit more. You were talking about your students. I'm curious as to what inspired you to go from the business world into the educational profession.
What happened with me was, even when I was in business, one of our first commercial products that we developed, this big software product, it was to automate. I know it doesn't sound so exciting, but it was to automate fast oil change centers. And so if you think about a Jiffy Lube, you need to keep track of the automobile, the owner of the automobile. You need to keep track of the inventory that is in the store, and then you can make some technical recommendations as to what should go in each car that's arriving. And so this program was incredibly powerful, and it had amazing features. And I sat down and I wrote a manual for this thing while these guys are writing the software. So when this thing is done, it's 8.5 by 11, 400 pages of it. And I would write like 10 pages a day, and it was just insane. And the program was fantastic and powerful. And I wanted to make sure that we wrote something that let our customers know that they invested a lot of money, but my gosh, if they just flip the pages, they'll realize what they can do with it. And so my point being is I always enjoyed explaining, reducing anything that's out there. So if I would read something about if I would read instructions on how to do something and it'd be 5 steps, I'd say, wait a minute, I could do this in 3. Like this whole thing is all superfluous. I can go from here to there. And so in my mind, I always just like to be as efficient as possible. And that just kind of became a natural in terms of education, right? Just take some concept and try to reduce it. Also, I always enjoyed like working from whatever somebody knows. What is your knowledge base and what can I connect this to that you'd be comfortable with? And then I'm going to go from there and just keep moving. So I think when I include that plus this idea of all the things I've learned from a personal standpoint, I'm able to be empathetic or empathic and show, I'm saying, the personal side that I think a good educator needs, because God knows, the kids are coming at you with all kinds of demands, and you just got to put a smiley face on and always meet them and greet them in a courteous and in positive manner. So my own personal journeys have really helped me stay in touch with that every child walking around is a child that could be in any place, anytime, and my job is to make them feel good about it, take the stress out of it, and just get to a solution that the child feels like, well, that was a positive interaction.
That's wonderful. Talking more about your students, I'm sure you teach them all the things in the textbook and all the lessons, but I found with my favorite teachers, they always taught me a lesson that was kind of outside of the textbook, outside of the classroom. I think this could be applicable for entrepreneurs as well who might be struggling with financials and not exactly knowing what to do. What's that number one or two piece of advice that you could give to entrepreneurs who don't exactly know what they're doing financially quite yet?
That's a tough one. I mean, there's a lot of things to tell entrepreneurs. One of the things I think I would always come back to is just concentrate on your value proposition. What will somebody pay for what you're doing? Is it markedly or appreciably different than what somebody else has? Or if there's an established name in the business, are they going to have that same capability in a year? I'll just give you a quick example. At our school, we're using Google Classroom as a platform to help distribute work to the students. And then there's this other application that is more powerful called Canvas. And Canvas is a full learning management system and has some extra features in it. Well, I said to myself, I could switch this year over to Canvas, or I'm just going to watch what Google does. And sure enough, Google Meet went from the limit of whatever it had to up to 40. The idea is that Google added a whole bunch more stuff. They're going to add breakout rooms. The Google Forms turned into a Google quizzing feature. Now I can randomize the choices and the orders they show up. So the idea is that you're just the point being that kind of it's like lead, follow, or get out of the way. Like you need to be honest about what's happening. Another thing, like for example, there was years ago I met and I was at a conference. I think it was like New York Ed Tech. It was a meetup group, and there was this guy there, and he says, "Listen, my company. Here's what we do. We look at what students are doing in the curriculum, and we send the parents a quickie lesson on that topic." Isn't that interesting, right? So they're studying triangles, and who remembers, an isosceles triangle, and a squared plus b squared equals c squared? And I'd be like, okay, all right, I'm listening, I'm thinking, okay, I mean, I get it, but I just, just like the sharks that went Shark Tank, would somebody pay for that? Where's this thing going? And I just find that that it's hard, right? I mean, everybody in America, the whole idea is to live the American dream, be an entrepreneur. You've really got to be hitting on a value proposition, and that is, people say yes, that is absolutely worth something to me.
Very interesting. Diving a little bit more into your origins in the financial industry, what made you passionate or interested in this? Because I know I don't have a financially geared brain per se. Do you think it was very natural for you, or did you learn throughout your journey that this was a passion point?
Well, I think there's a couple of things. I appreciate that question. A lot of people think just because of all the financial stuff that I throw out that I've had this like long career on Wall Street, and I haven't. I've been nowhere near Wall Street. In fact, some of the things I learned, I go, damn it. I think that S&P tracking fund doesn't actually have the S&P 500 companies in it. Like when Vanguard created the first 500 S&P 500 tracking index, it did not have the same 500 companies. I got to find this information out somewhere. Yeah, the idea is that they choose a bunch of corporations they expect to behave like the S&P 500. So it's pretty remarkable, probably because S&P has some proprietary right to it. So finding out this information is a bit annoying, but it gets back to that idea again of the idea of deconstructing and simplifying. So anytime I'd ever read anything financial, I'd be like, so this is all this is? Like I read pages and pages, and this is all this is this right here. And so, for example, like I even, in the book, when I talk about rate of return on an investment, it's simply two numbers. It's what are you going to achieve every year divided by what you need to invest to get to achieve it. And I call it, at the start, I call it rate of earn, not rate of return, because it's what you're earning. It's not like they're giving you your money back. What are we returning here? So rate of return is a misnomer. So I start by calling it rate of earn. And then later on, I say, listen, we can't fight the world here. Everybody else calls it rate of return. So going forward, we're going to call it rate of return. So I just found this thing fertile for new eyes and a new way to approach the topic.
Wonderful. Well, I'd love to talk about your book a little bit. I know you're peeking into it a little bit. I know you talk about 401ks and loans. And there are a lot of great topics in there. What's one or two of the topics that you think are most important for young people to understand? Because we aren't necessarily, at least I wasn't taught about all of that in school. It's kind of a self-teach. Hey, mom and dad, what are you guys doing? What's an important aspect that young people should know?
Well, Jenna, a couple of things I want to mention. The whole book came about for a couple of reasons. One is that I've been at this a good amount of time. This is my 19th year in business ed, and I wanted to leave something behind. I thought I had something to add. Something that wasn't a textbook, and it wasn't a newspaper, and it was just kind of, it was education plus commentary plus perspective, all that. So you would know not just the topic, but maybe how to look at it. So I envisioned when I was writing this as, you know what, I see so many students who, for whatever reason, get their schedules jammed up and they graduate and then they say, oh man, bro, I couldn't take the course or I can't take it. I said, well, now I got you covered. I wrote a book that has literally everything I'd want you to know and every way I'd like you to think about it before you leave. So like one of them is, there's a great movie out by PBS called The Retirement Gamble. And it's a bit of a misnomer, but it's really the retirement drag. It has to do with fees that professional money managers charge to manage others' money. So for example, if your money manager was to earn a rate of return of 7%, but charge you 2% for the effort in trying to manage your money, the idea is you would earn a net, if you will, of 5%. It'd be 7 minus 2 is 5. So your money would grow at 5% instead of 7. Well, Jack Bogle, the founder of Vanguard, goes through this discussion where he says, listen, over 50 years, the person who can earn 7% on their own, let's say will have $100,000. The person who invests the money with the advisor will have 37,000. 37 versus 100,000. So I actually took in the book and I developed the whole tables of 100, basically the idea of this is one person with the drag and without it. And so it's just kind of like mind blowing. So rate of return matters. The fees that any advisor charges you matter. How soon you get started matters. Like it all matters. And there's a lot of great solutions out there, a lot of automated solutions. I know young people like yourself want to be able to tap buttons on your app and see how am I doing and everything visually. And you can do that with the apps, and I talk a lot about them in the book.
That's great. Well, so everyone here can go and get your book. Again, what is it called and where can they find it?
The book is called FinancialLit. So the idea is it's just financial with a capital L-I-T, with one L. And you can find it under my last name, Barrella, or the word FinancialLit at Amazon in paperback or Kindle.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. This has been a wonderful, wonderful conversation. I know I've learned a lot. To final wrap-up question that we ask all of our mentors is, what do you hope for the next generation of leaders and entrepreneurs?
What I hope for the next generation of leaders, you folks, you young people out there, is this is a tough one. You're going to have to thread a needle. There is a lot of demagoguery out there, a lot of misinformation, a lot of passion, a lot of energies invested in all these crazy directions. And it's going to be tough, but I hope that there is a way that we can implement an economic system. You're getting a lot of attention about this, but an economic system, capitalist based, but with some kind of safeguards so that we don't have, like, the idea is there's a lot of critics who say capitalism and greed are essentially inseparable. You can't separate it. And my frustration is that I think it can be done, and it needs to be done, because there's a lot of people that are, quote, left behind with stagnant wages, and of course technical revolutions and all the rest of it are allowing us to automate jobs and all that. So it's challenging for people. And so if the young people in this who are going to be our future leaders can figure out a way without turning the U.S. into a welfare state, but to add, to effectively, allow the masses to earn a living, that's going to be a trick. And so I hope, and I know the potential for young people is enormous, and I just hope that we have some real heavyweights, some real statesmen, some real people who can push back against tides, do the right thing, set an example, win people over to their side.
That resonates with me so much, and I know we do have some wonderful individuals in this next gen community to do exactly that. Tom, thank you so much again for joining us.
Jenna, you're very welcome. Thank you.